So Leslie Curtis, she's really a radio star because she's done this a lot, maybe over the last 5 years with us or more, probably more. She's Director of Business Development at Regents Park of Boca Raton, and she is a nurse. She has a nursing degree, but that's not what she does now. She really helps people know about Regents Park. And she wrote an article which was just right on, and this article is on, are you prepared for the possibility of long-term care? Well, nobody's really prepared, but there are things you can do, even though you don't want to think about it, but you must. So thank you very much for being with us, Leslie.
Oh, thank you so very much.
And it's interesting that this article came up. I have an ex-husband that I have no relationship with, but I have two sons who do have a relationship with their father, and he lives in Texas. And nothing would do, but his father had a stroke about a month ago, and then they went to visit. One went to visit him, and now he's had two other strokes, and he's in a rehab center, in Texas, Tyler, Texas, and I have to assume that it's also going to be, it's probably a long-term care facility. I'm not sure, but it was funny because the woman who's taking care of him, who is a relative, said, "Oh, there's no problem. We're not keeping him in a nursing home. We're going to bring him home." Yeah. Well, let me tell you, my son went out. My son's pretty strong. He I think twisted his wrist already trying to lift him up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the story, right?
That is so typical. We evaluate all our patients before we bring them in for short-term rehab, because you can, not 100%, but you can tell a lot of times if they're going to need long-term care. They're 95 and the caretaker is the wife. Well, hello, and he's not going to get that much better. You just know. And no one's thought about it. No one's thought about their resources or any of that stuff. And I'm, with the elderly, a lot of times the spouse, usually the wife, doesn't have a clue what the resources are. So then you need to hire an attorney to help you do, all these different things. And it's not that everyone will need to live in a nursing facility. Obviously, the goal is to keep them as independent as possible, and if you can stay in place, that's great. But there are people that's just not possible. And Anita, even if it was possible, they hire a private duty aide 24/7. And I'm not saying they all do this, but they're on their cell phone watching TV, and it's not always the best situation. So, these are things, though, you have to think about. And I think that you, like myself, have known people that have had tragedies in their life and have required long-term care, and they're not prepared.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about having insurance. People, I've had insurance for 20 years almost, and I knew I had to have it because I knew what was happening. But people now, even if they can afford it, they just don't want it. They say, "Oh no, we don't need to do that."
And there are two views on that. My old boss used to say, and he had a lot of money, "I'm not paying for long-term care insurance." I mean, you look at this, the patient in bed A is Medicaid, the patient in bed B has long-term care insurance. They're getting the same care. Well, that's true if you really, it's true regardless, but if you do not have the money to afford to pay for those premiums, you probably will qualify for long-term care Medicaid. Now, if you do have the money to pay for those premiums, then it would be long-term private pay, which gets a little costly, in which case you really do want that long-term care insurance. So it's really based on what people can actually afford. Those policies, if you got them years ago like you did, are reasonable. Now, if somebody's in their 50s or 60s and they try to pick up one of those long-term care policies, they may not be affordable for them.
Right, exactly.
So you have to look at the whole picture and what they have. And some of them have a long-term care policy they bought 20 years ago, and it'll pay them $100 a day in a nursing home.
Right.
Well, I don't want to tell you anything, but the rates are, I think, in the local community, anywhere from $250 to $300 for a semi-private room per day, plus your medications. well, Medicaid will cover the medications, but you see what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
they've never even thought about the fact that they need to check on, God, what are nursing homes charging now? Because I'm only going to get $100 a day.
Yeah, I think you've just flagged me.
Yeah. Check your policy, darling. You know,
right.
it's true.
Right.
It's like it only covers $100 a day. That means I'd have to pay $175 a day for my spouse. Yeah. And then it hurts them in terms of Medicaid because they have $100 a day reimbursement. So where they may have, you just have to look at all these things. It's very complex, and I'm not a Medicaid expert, but it becomes difficult because now you have an income of $100 a day towards your room and board, and that might be just enough where now you don't qualify for Medicaid for long-term care because you have this policy. So, yes, I would advise anyone that's got a long-term care policy to check and see what your reimbursement is. And it better be at least $250 a day for a semi-private room.
Amazing. Well, let's just talk about what happens there, at Regents Park. So you actually have a fantastic rehabilitation center, that we know. But then you do have people who have to live somewhere, and they can't take care of themselves.
And like I said, some people, they may have the finances to live at home with 24-hour care, but you have to see if that's really the best situation. I'm kind of going against what Medicaid says, simply because, you have someone that used to be very vibrant, active, and social, and now they're in their home doing not a whole lot, and I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of times doing nothing. So, if you're an inpatient for long-term care at Regents Park of Boca, there's activities. There's nursing that's going to get you up, make sure you're eating enough. There's a dietitian following your weight. There's all those things that are really, really important. And, if there's a little bit of cognitive loss, they can track how that's going, and what things might benefit this long-term resident that nobody would even think about if they were living at home. So it's like a Larry Lampert, Dr. Lampert. Some of our long-term residents, we've called him in for the visual things to help with their balance, and it's been tremendous for them. So you have more resources when you're in our facility versus, if you're at home.
Sure.
And again, I'm not suggesting that people that can stay at home and they're comfortable and they're happy shouldn't. They should.
Well, don't you think the time that we have now in our society, there are so many opportunities and so many ways that you can grow old or grow bold, grow old and be better and have a life that isn't confining. And when it is, then you find the best place for that.
Absolutely. I think I was just talking to some home health agency the other day, and they offer a service that it's almost like a therapeutic recreation person comes in and sees what would benefit the patients, cognitively and otherwise, but you're going to pay, I think it's $150 a month for 2 visits. Well, a lot of people can't afford that. So it's a wonderful program. It really is. But if you can't afford it, it doesn't do you any good. There's a lot of really good stuff out there, but you have to know where to look. And if your parent or your loved one is in the home setting, I think the best place to start is possibly a care manager that knows all these different resources. Because there's no way that someone can just go online and say, resources for frail elderly. They don't know.
Right.
It's too emotional. So it really is probably to hire a geriatric care manager and they can help find out which would be the best case scenario for your loved one.
Right. Well, and of course, Leslie Curtis really knows what she's talking about because this has been her field, and she knows a lot of people like that. I think that if you're looking for rehab, and that's probably something that you want to think about, it doesn't mean necessarily that this is something that just happened to you. You could be having some other serious problems that have just never gone away, and your doctor could just refer you to go there. Isn't that true?
Absolutely.
Because it might keep you out of a nursing home.
Right. I think the most important thing is to, just like you know who your primary care doctor is, you know which hospital you're going to go to for planned surgery or, you know, those kinds of things. You should know where you're going to go for rehab because for the most part, they're going to give you 3 days. 3 days, and then they're going to give you a list and say, okay, pick where you want to go because you're not safe to go home. It's like, how do you do that when you still have anesthesia on your brain? It's best to know where you would like to go and tour the facility. Hopefully, you know, obviously Regents Park, but tour the facility and then have your mind made up. And then if you know you're going for some kind of procedure and you're going to be hospitalized, you know, they call us in advance and say, I'm going to the hospital on October 1st. Doctor says it'll be 3 days. So I already know that they're going to be coming the 4th. So we plot it in our little calendar that we need a male or a female bed on that date for an orthopedic or whatever kind of surgery. And, you know, they're taken care of. But if they wait until the 11th hour, you know, because they don't know better or they've not been informed, they may not get a bed. You know what I'm saying? We may be full. Or, you know, the doctor may say, well, I want you to go to XYZ. They don't know that they have a right to pick where they want to go, and they go. And it's not always the best environment for them. So it's so important for people to know where they'd like to go for rehab, because especially nowadays, you know, with the hospitals sending them out so quickly, they really have to know, because they're not, I would say so many of them are not safe to go home.
Yes, and I think you hit it real. You spoke it so well that they're really at the mercy of just a bunch of people telling them where they should go, what they should do. Now, if they have smart relatives, people taking care of them, people listen to our show, they've read articles, they know that they do have, they can make their own decisions about where they should go, what they should do. But many times people are alone. A lot of you listening to the radio, you may not have someone right there. There may be an emergency and they can't get down here fast enough. So you wind up in the hospital and then you have to go somewhere. Well, know that doctors have their own favorite places. I mean, it may be because it's close to where their office is, whatever reason. And I don't know if I told you this story, but I had a friend who really was more of an upscale kind of person, and he was having, I don't know what kind of surgery it was, but I said, I hope you're going, you know, I have a place I want you to go to. He said, oh, no. He said, my rehab's going to be where my doctor is he's the medical director. And I said, and he told me where, and I said, I don't think so. And he said, oh, yeah, he's going to take care of me. And I had a little bit of an argument in a nice way. I said, I don't think that you're making the right decision. He said, well, my doctor said, I said, okay. 3 weeks later, he got finished, and he told me, he didn't quite say it was a hellhole, because I know the place, it's not bad. It's just not what Regents Park is. It's just a place, you know, where they take care of people. And I do remember going to a place like that. I think it was with the same company. It was a corporation, that ran these. And I had a friend who wound up actually getting sepsis in one of these places, and she did wind up dying, as a matter of fact. But whether it was that the fault from there or not, I don't know. But I know when I went to visit her, she had her buzzer on, and she was waiting for a drink, and it was at least 30 minutes. And I was there then, and so I just excused myself, went to the main desk and said, we need to have blah. She said, I'll be right there. I said, no, now. We've been waiting for 30 minutes. Now, that isn't going to happen at White, with you. It isn't going to happen with you because Regents Park everybody is so helpful, so wonderful, so friendly. It's just,
I'll tell you, they really are. I mean, if there's one thing in my mind that stands out is the staff is friendly. I mean, if you walk down the hallway, good morning, how are you? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a stranger or you know them, that's just, you know, how they relate to patients and or visitors. You know, I think it's so important to understand, and I think some of the training, you know, at Regents is treat this person like your mother or your grandmother. Because the reality is it could be your mother or your grandmother, you know, and we get a lot of patients that are, you know, related to the staff. I mean, they only want them to come to Regents Park. Well, that tells you something.
Of course.
You know, we also get residents that family members work at other places and they want them to come to Regents Park. And
that's a little embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, they want the best for their loved one.
Of course.
And I think that, you know, any facility can make a mistake or have an employee that's in a grouchy mood and, you know, not present well. That's just human nature, and we're dealing with human beings. But we really, really watch that because that's not what we want people to see 100% of the time. And we want them to see that we care, you know. And like I said, you know, it's a human industry. We're dealing with human beings on both sides of the fence, the employees and the patients. So you have to always kind of monitor.
Sure, I understand.
You know,
and you know what really makes it's not just because people are friendly. You can have a lot of friendly people, but you have extremely qualified people. I mean, they really know what their position is. They know what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, I have had so many of your experts there on the radio show, and one stands out, the woman with physical therapy who's in charge of all.
Yeah.
She is amazing.
Raquel.
Yes. She's amazing.
Well, you know what? The director of nurses, and I truly, I can't remember from here to there, you know, what I'm doing or have done. But the director of nurses, it's 180 beds. She knows every one of those patients. She reviews them on admissions. Obviously, you know, half of them are there for long-term care, but she knows what's going on. I mean, if you trigger, it's Mrs. So-and-so, her labs are, oh, yeah, and she can just blurt it out. It's like, how do you do that? I can't tell you what or if I ate breakfast this morning, and she can spout out all this stuff. It's amazing, but it's very comforting to me because I know that if there's something abnormal or off, she's on it. I mean, never mind the unit managers and all that stuff, but she's aware of it. And the system they have, even if she's not there, she can go into the Sigma Care system and see what people are documenting and what things are coming up. So she can follow even if she's not there. So if she's concerned about a patient, whether it's a long-term or short-term, she can stay in touch and see what's going on. And then obviously a lot of times she'll come in, you know. So that to me is very comforting. So when I'm telling people this is a great place, I believe it because I see the commitment of people that work there, and they've been there for forever, you know.
Yeah. How old is the facility? That's the other thing. It's been there a long time.
30 years.
30 years.
I had a big banner made up that's in the front lobby. 30 years in the community.
That's lovely.
The current owners weren't there for 30 years, but probably for about 25 or 24, something like that. But the facility with the name of Regents Park at Boca Raton has been there for 30 years, and they've done well. It's just kind of tucked away, nestled in by Verde Elementary School, which is pretty cool because they come over sometimes. And it's a residential area. It's just so pleasant.
Yeah, it is. No, it's anytime you've been there and you have beautiful parties. I'm sure you're planning something for December right now.
Yep, December 4th.
Oh, should I write that down? December 4th.
I'm working on it. It's making me nuts, but yeah.
Okay. I know. It's going to be fantastic. Well, I think that the one thing that people, and we started out the whole conversation, that people say, oh, no, I'm not going to a nursing home. I'm not going to I'm not going to stay there. Well, I think by the time something happens, it's a great alternative. Doesn't mean you have to, but you never know what other alternatives are available. And people have life changes, lots of life changes. And it's not bad, especially if it's at Regents Park. Yes, there'd be some places you don't want to go to the nursing home.
Yeah.
But not Regents Park. This would be the best of the best. So just go there for a visit. Just go there, ask for Leslie Curtis, and she'll give you a tour, or someone else would do that. And let me give you some information about them. Just write this down. This is their phone number. It's 561-483-9282. Again, 561-483-9282. And you'll be very, very, very pleasantly surprised what you'll see. It's hard to believe that that's what it is. The views are beautiful. The food's delicious. And also you do have, I don't know if you have any coming up, you do have speakers that come there and you open it up to the public.
Yes, we do. And I don't have it right in front of me, but we do have a few coming up, and I will send that information to you.
So we can put it into Boomer Times. And I have a few speakers, a couple of people that I think would bring in some nice people, too, so I have to let you know about that.
Yeah, absolutely, because, we like to educate our community the best we can, and the best way is to have a speaker come in and talk about various things. So if you know someone that would benefit the local community, absolutely send me their information, because we will, do either a luncheon or an evening thing, whichever is, fits the community's needs best. But, yeah, we enjoy doing those things.
And tell me how many staff, I don't know if you have this at the top of your head, about how many staff do you actually have working there?
We have about probably 300.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you on something?
No, because the housekeeping department is a company that we hired. So I don't have their numbers, and so it's kind of jumbled, but it's pretty up there.
I thought you were going to say 200.
So
I didn't know it was
staff.
Whoa, almost 300 people?
At least, yeah.
Oh, I can't even believe that. And how many rooms? You said at the beginning. How many?
We have 180 rooms.
Yeah.
Or beds. I should say
beds.
That rooms.
Okay,
beds.
okay,
My
beds.
God, if it was 180 rooms, I'd die.
Okay, beds.
180 beds.
Yeah.
And that's mostly semi-private, but some private. And there are 3 separate and distinct units, or nursing state, units, and they each have 60 per unit. So our short-term rehab has 60 beds, and then we opened up basically 19 more on one of the long-term units because we didn't have enough to accommodate the need. So that's a unit that's got 60 beds, but 19 of them are for short-term rehab. And then the other one is totally long-term care, which has 60 beds. So we stay pretty full.
Yeah, you really do, and that's unfortunate. I don't mean that. It's just unfortunate that people can't, just be super healthy, live to 100 with no help.
Yeah, but I'll tell you.
What?
My pride and joy is we've got a patient that's 105.
Oh, my goodness.
And she is as cute as can be.
Really?
She's just so cute, and she's totally with it. You can see there's days that are better than other days, but she's so sweet. So we get them.
Yeah.
We get the older ones, and then and she resides there. And then we get the short term that are 95, you know, and they go home.
Right.
So, you know, it's just, but the good thing is if they come in for short-term rehab, you have the ability to really kind of like look at, should they really be driving? You know, either from a cognitive perspective or visual, you know, and you can call those people in. There's testing that can be done by Dr. Lampert for the visual stuff, you know. I mean, are they really safe behind a wheel?
Yep.
So that's a real bonus for our short-term people, that not that they want to lose their independence, but we don't want them to get in an accident driving somewhere, you know, or maybe they can drive well in the daytime, but not at nighttime with night vision issues.
Yeah, that's true. No,
There's a lot of stuff that can be checked out for these people, you know, even if they're just there for short-term rehab.
Right. Oh, yeah, Larry. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but I actually go to Larry Lampert, and Bill is going there because we are strengthening our eyes. It's a wonderful system.
He is great. I'm so honored to have him coming into our building because I know how much he does for our residents, and people just don't know about this whole vision therapy thing. You know, you really have to educate people because they're not aware of it. They think, you know, it's just a 20/20 eye check. No, that's not it.
Right.
And it makes a tremendous change in their life. It really does.
You should try it sometime. No, we all need strengthening of our eyes, and I do it. And at first it was giving just a slight little headache, but then I get no headache, so it's perfect.
Really?
So, yeah, it's really wonderful. You might want to try it. But anyway, Leslie, it was wonderful talking with you. I know you can go back to your little family emergency, whatever you have, but I'm certainly thankful that you just put the right light on things that people need to know about. You're so straightforward and honest, and Regents Park is a great place. And the phone number there, again, is 561-483-9282, or you can go on their website, which is regentsparkboca.com. Thank you very much, and I've got the December date marked down on my calendar.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leslie. Bye.
Have a good night.